episode of Pole SCC. We are extremely privileged to have one of the most eminent personalities in the field of skill development. We have with us Dr. T.P. Shashikumar, who is better known as an educationist and someone with an ocean of knowledge on almost every topic out there. His academic life is a gamut of diverse disciplines starting from PhD in mathematics to LLB, MS in psychotherapy and counseling, and an MBA degree as well. Apart from his jubilance in the field of academics, he is infamously sought after as a teacher, someone who instills the skill of learning in a student. From being a space scientist to a professor, and now the founder of the organization called Shiksha, wherein DrTPS is in a mission of spreading teaching and learning as a skill, he is filled with knowledge. Well known as the Acharya in the model world, who strictly believes in the methodology of lifelong learning and the ideology of Gurukuls, we have him today to instigate all of our listeners and viewers with the idea and importance of sustainable development goals, or better known as the SDGs. We are honored to have you here, sir. It will be really great and a pleasure to start on a note wherein you can explain to us the essence of sustainable development goals at large.
Thank you, Rudrani. Thank you, Rudrani, for the nice words. And I must thank all those who are involved here for giving this opportunity. I welcome all of you and wish you a good learning. I am one who wanted to invest little of my time left in my life. As one of the greatest poets of Kerala, late Kunyunni Master, whose birthday happens to be today, 10th May, 1927 he took birth. I was part of discussions on his messages, and once he said, as just now Rudrani was mentioning, a small change should begin with one person to a small community around them, which can make large difference in the world. I am 100% sure all those students who are part of SAC, Sri Aurobindo, whose message was a great message in Indian politics. Probably from politics he went to spirituality. Probably only one person. Otherwise Mahatma Gandhi and all has travelled along with the politics and spirituality together. Or maybe an applied spiritual man was Mahatma Gandhi. Aurobindo had left mostly his political activity and then jumped into spirituality. Vivekananda was a spiritual leader for political activities in the country. He predicted much earlier than Congress could think of independence in India. Dalai Lama is, we don't know whether to call him as a spiritual man or a politician. They go hand in hand. So many people come in mind when we think about Aurobindo. He was a great philosopher. And I'm sure the students of Aurobindo, in connection with the Enactus activities, what is being planned, when Tarishi contacted me, I never knew where the connection was. How did she land it upon me? But I was jumping into this, agreeing for a talk. That too, the first talk on the podcast which is planned on a very important program like Sustainable Development Goals of UN, and it is 2015 to 30. That is the time frame in which UN planned to have it, and we are discussing it probably after 6.5 years, and officially adapted by all the 193 countries, which is one of the programs of UNDP. UNDP was almost 170 countries, I think, where the motto was eradication of poverty, and almost my age, 56 years, UNDP is working in this field. And today when we ask a question, did the UN and UNDP could achieve this? Or did the poverty increased in most of the part of the world? Or are we looking at the GDP to gain? Probably India is trying to be in the 4 country club, and that we think as the development in the world. And we are celebrating Yoga Day, and India's status in the wellness is much worse than most of the best countries, or the neighboring countries like Pakistan is much ahead of us. And are we talking about the better life index, or the GDP, or the other indices which talks about us? And is it not good enough, which was started by UNDP and all other countries? Or do we need another index under the Sustainable Development Index? The other day I was talking on a movie which just released last month, that is Seaspiracy. I'm sure the audience who have not seen that movie must see that movie. Conspiracy is, which is a very known word, but the movie talks about seaspiracy. The ecological balance in the world is not from the 30% of the earth. The land were probably 20% of that 30%, which is very, very small, which is occupied by the so-called developed nation, or maybe the greatest cities, but 70% and more are in water, and they control the climatic conditions in the world. And therefore ecology of the sea is much more important. And when we talk about what happens on the land, when I drink a glass of water, I am drinking only one glass of water. But when I drink 1 glass of milk, you must remember the animal which was producing that milk is also fed, and it is gallons of water and tons of food which I am consuming by 1 glass of milk, or probably 1 plate of meat which we serve to the public. So therefore, the per capita, the per head consumption has to be computed with bigger mathematics, a complex understanding. And it is not the gross national income per capita, GNIPC, which is in tandem with GDP in most of the countries, because the wealth is in the pockets of few people, and the large chunk of people are in poverty in most of the countries. That is why the wellness index, we are very poor. For example, India is very poor, but we are going to be probably from 6th to 3rd in the next 10 years. That is what at least we aim. China also aim. America is also aiming. But look at the happiness index, whether the common public is happy or not. That is where probably the relevance of the sustainable development comes. But then you look at the movie Seaspiracy or Cowspiracy. Another one is Cowspiracy, C-O-W, Cowspiracy, and in which the meat eaters are being bluffed up. You can see the sustainable development. The word sustainable itself is a big question. Who should sustain? With whose name we should sustain? What is that word sustainable means? Is it really an adjustment between me and my neighbor? What is his intention? What is his motive? If we don't understand our neighbor's requirement and say, for me to sustain I need air conditioner, for my servant maid to sustain probably they need a mixie. So the word sustainability itself is a big question when we compare the first country, probably Sweden, Denmark, Finland. These are all the best country in the Sustainable Development Index. I think we should connect this with the wellness index and the per head human capita income which you have, and look at not the GDP at all. Because why we say this? Because you look at the GDP, United States and China, which in the sustainable development and the wellness index are at the lowest rank, less than 30. America, I think, is around 50. India is around 120 or so. Whereas Somalia probably is 160 and Africa is 160 around, right? So you compare the GDP and see, we have richest people in the country, most richest persons, but we have the majority of people at the poorest stage. Are we going to make this a balanced state in which we share things? Is it possible? That is where no poverty, everybody is poor, the rich man is also poor, poor for his own purpose. His hunger is for maybe fame. So therefore he say, I'm poor, I am much less. I worked with one of the richest man. He used to use calculator every day and then compute. And he will say, when I will become seventh richest man in the world. Because they every time they think that. No? And can we have a zero hunger? Totally inclusive world where the good health and well-being can be given. I think that is where the SDGs priorities, it is not the GDP, it is not the climate actions and all come quite large. But that doesn't affect a person who is really starving for food, right? So we need to know what is to be prioritized, where equality is to be given. What are the major problems of the poor men, the largest group of people in the world? That is probably where the UN, it is not development, it is not progress. These are two different indices. The progress is entirely different from development. We have huge and nice roads, but we don't have the food to provide to the people who made the roads. I keep saying, when we have 5-star hotel in which we eat in air condition, we don't think about those people who are in the field eating with the half clean hands in a small dabba where he is eating his food, right? And that is what is providing this rice on our table. We forget those people. Do we have a mind to have this in our plate, to think about the partnership? The partnership not with the countries to countries. It is not with the political party to political party. I'm sure they will fight always. There could be a lot of problems, but can we connect? At least there can be a social life which can be defined by an intellectual thought and emotional attachment. Can we have that connection so that physically we are not able to meet? None of you, either Rudrani or the people who connected to me from the college, is physically known to me, but digitally I am talking to them. This is a world where we can do a lot of change by connecting using technology. So we have great opportunity in the world to change the quality of education, which were unaffordable. The unaffordable lifestyle which have divided the cities and the small villages. Now today, can we have these facilities to support them? Because medical system can be digital. The world can go every activity through connecting to people all across the globe. But understand, when we talk this, I used to go to Northeast, the Itanagar as a capital from Arunachal Pradesh. I go to the China border. At least 5 years back when I went also, I know electricity is only for namesake. No electricity at all. When a flood comes, all the small electricity which is there for few hours also will be collapsed. And internet facility, I keep saying, when I send a message, one BSNL wind can take the message and I have to wait for the next wind to come to receive my messages. It is not at all connected. Maybe to travel 20 kilometers, I take 2.5 hours because bridges are not there across the great river, the only one voracious male river which makes the life very, very, very bad in those states. And when I go there, I remember young children like 9th and 10th class children will come and touch me and say, I want to touch you because I want to go home and tell my parents that I touched a Indian space scientist. Understand the word Indian, because they think that is some other part of the world. Because the connection between those people to the other close cities, even Calcutta or maybe Delhi or other metropolitan cities which we talk. Now today I live in Hyderabad, probably one of the best cities in India, where we have got every person. We know that a lot of people from Northeast has to travel across different part of the country to get educated. That is because we are not able to give sufficient education system. New education policy came, it's only policy, but I don't know how many of them will get really into practice. So we have great goals inside the country to get established, where it is not the policy, the sustainable development index and the goals which we have, and to measure such indices, where it is one of the projects of UNDP. It is how we are going to implement and what we will do to take it across to the whole public, because it aims every citizen in the world, every citizen in the country, every citizen in the state, every citizen in small place, either city or village, each panchayat or taluk, without discrimination. Will that be possible with this new advent of technology, advent of new century? Can we make this happen? That is the biggest question. I think this is what I wanted to give as an introduction about the goals of UN as sustainable development.
Thank you, sir. I think so. I mean, all our listeners and viewers must have very well comprehended what is the general idea behind SDGs, because you have provided us with a very subtle way of critically analyzing the UNDP goals.